a Polish pillow fight, you might imagine a light-hearted scuffle, feathers flying and laughter echoing through the air, more like a panzer punch-up, a clash of steel and might, where the stakes were far higher than a mere pillow fight. Ah, the Battle of Pszczyna sounds charming, doesn't it? A quaint little town, perhaps a place for a peaceful retreat. Like a particularly spirited game of badminton played by chaps with excellent moustaches. You can almost see them, can't you? Laughing and enjoying a sunny afternoon. Sadly, dear reader, 'twas not to be. The reality was far grimmer, a stark contrast to the idyllic image we might conjure. From the 1st to the 3rd of September 1939, this small Polish town found itself at the heart of a rather less jolly affair, the beginning of the Second World War. The air was thick with tension and the sound of marching boots. No cucumber sandwiches here, just tanks, trenches, and frankly terrifying firepower. The roar of artillery and the clank of tank tracks replaced any semblance of peace. The battle raged just south of Katowice, in a region known as Upper Silesia, a place that would soon be etched into the annals of history. Picture, if you will, rolling hills, quaint villages, the occasional grumpy farmer wondering why his morning milk tasted of gunpowder. The serene landscape was marred by the scars of war. Not exactly the backdrop for a global conflict, but history, as we know, has a sense of humor drier than a vicar's vest. The juxtaposition of such a peaceful setting with the horrors of war is a reminder of the unpredictable nature of history. Why Pszczyna? Why now? Europe in flames. Now, you may well ask, why on earth would anyone fight over a place called Pszczyna? It's not exactly a household name, is it? But as with many things in history, the answer lies in its strategic significance. Well, my inquisitive friend, it all boils down to geography and that old chestnut, strategic importance. Pszczyna was more than just a dot on the map. It was a key to unlocking further advances into Poland. Germany, under the, shall we say, enthusiastic leadership of one Mr. Adolf Hitler, had developed a bit of a land acquisition habit. Hitler's ambitions were not just grand, they were insatiable. Poland, inconveniently located next door, was top of the shopping list. It was the gateway to the east, and controlling it was crucial for Hitler's broader plans of European domination. Pszczyna, you see, sat plump on key rail lines and roads leading deeper into Poland. These railways and roads were the arteries that would supply the German war machine. Control those, and the German army could waltz into Warsaw before anyone could say blitzkrieg. The speed and efficiency of their advance depended heavily on these routes. Of course, the Poles weren't simply going to offer up their tea and biscuits and politely step aside. They were well aware of the stakes and prepared to defend their homeland. This was their home, by Jove, and they were prepared to defend it with everything they had. The spirit of resistance was strong, and the Polish people were determined to stand their ground, which tragically turned out to be rather less than what the Germans had. But more on that later. The initial clashes were fierce, but the overwhelming might of the German forces soon became apparent. German game plan, blitzkrieg, boogie, Polish plan, oh dear. The German plan, in essence, was to hit the Poles so hard and fast they'd forget which way was up, let alone which way to point a rifle. This was the infamous blitzkrieg lightning war, a terrifyingly effective combination of tanks, planes, and motorized infantry. Imagine a particularly aggressive game of chess played at 100 miles per hour, and you're halfway there. The Poles, bless their valiant souls, were relying on a somewhat more traditional approach. Think cavalry charges, yes, really. Outdated equipment and a communication system that relied heavily on carrier pigeons with a poor sense of direction. They fought bravely, fiercely even, but against the German war machine, it was a bit like bringing a butter knife to a gunfight. Numbers don't lie, except when they're about casualties in 1939. Accurate casualty figures from Pszczyna are, sadly, about as reliable as a politician's promise. Records were lost, destroyed, or perhaps just scribbled on the back of a cigarette packet and used to light a fire. We do know that thousands perished on both sides. The Germans, with their superior firepower, undoubtedly inflicted heavier losses. The Poles, however, fought with the tenacity of a badger defending its set, making every inch of ground a victory in itself. It's easy to get caught up in the statistics, the cold, hard numbers. But let us not forget, each digit represents a life lost, a future unwritten, a family forever changed. War, my friends, is a numbers game only a monster could win. Section 5, laughter in the face of tanks. A few slightly mad tales from the front. Now, I know what you're thinking. Stephen, old bean, this is all terribly grim. Can't we have a bit of a giggle in the face of impending doom? And you'd be right, of course. Humor, even in the darkest of times, is what keeps us human. It's the glue that binds us together, the spark that lights up the gloom. And believe it or not, even amidst the chaos of Pszczyna, there were moments of sheer absurdity, moments that, if not for the gravity of the situation, would be downright hilarious. One tale, perhaps apocryphal, but then the best ones are, tells of a Polish unit that captured a German tank using nothing but a bottle of vodka and some creative sign language. Seems the tank crew, a tad over-enthusiastic about their rations, mistook the Polish soldiers for friendly faces offering refreshments. They were so eager for a drink that they didn't realize they were being captured. Whether true or not, it highlights the often bizarre nature of war, where moments of comedy can erupt even amid the tragedy. It's these stories that remind us of the resilience of the human spirit. It's a reminder that even in the face of the abyss, the human spirit, in its own strange way, finds a way to carry on. Through laughter, through camaraderie, through the shared absurdity of it all, we find a way to endure. Section 6. Aftermath. Not exactly a picnic in the park for anyone. Well, dear reader, the Battle of Pszczyna, much like that extra slice of cake, didn't end well for anyone's waistline or indeed morale. After 3 days of fierce fighting, the Germans, with their superior numbers and firepower, emerged victorious. The Poles, outmatched but not outfought, were forced to withdraw, licking their wounds and pondering where it all went so terribly wrong. The victory at Pszczyna gave the Germans a foothold in southern Poland, but it was a Pyrrhic one. The Poles had fought with a ferocity that took Hitler's generals by surprise. It was a sign of things to come, a taste of the indomitable spirit that would define the Polish resistance throughout the war. Section 7. What did we learn, kids? War's messy and rarely funny, so what can we glean from this rather depressing yet strangely amusing jaunt through history? Well, for starters, war is messy. There are no winners, only degrees of loss. And while we can find humor in the most unexpected places, it's crucial to remember the very real human cost. Behind every statistic, every anecdote lies a story of courage, sacrifice, and often unimaginable suffering. The Battle of Pszczyna, though just a blip on the radar of a vast and terrible conflict, serves as a stark reminder of the human capacity for both good and evil. It's a story that deserves to be told, remembered, and learned from, lest we repeat the mistakes of the past. But seriously, the bravery bit, respect where it's due. Now, before we get carried away with all this doom and gloom, let's take a moment to appreciate the sheer grit and determination displayed by those who fought at Pszczyna. Imagine, if you will, facing down a panzer tank armed with little more than a rifle and a hearty dose of Polish courage. These were ordinary men and women thrust into extraordinary circumstances, and they faced their fate with a bravery that beggars belief. So here's to the soldiers of Pszczyna, both Polish and German, caught in the gears of a war they didn't start, fighting for a future they might never see. Pszczyna today, from battlefield to, well, it's complicated. Today, Pszczyna is a quiet, unassuming town. The scars of war have largely healed, the bullet holes patched, the trenches filled in, but the memory of those fateful September days lingers on, a somber echo in the laughter of children playing where tanks once rolled. It's a reminder that history isn't something confined to dusty textbooks. It's alive, woven into the very fabric of the places we live, the stories we tell, the lessons we carry with us. Want to know more? Time for some light reading? No, really. So there you have it, a whirlwind tour of the Battle of Pszczyna, complete with tanks, pigeons, and slightly tipsy Germans. If by some chance this rather unorthodox history lesson has whetted your appetite for more, I urge you, dear reader, to delve deeper into the annals of World War II. There are countless stories to be told, lessons to be learned, and perhaps, if you look closely enough, the odd chuckle to be had along the way. Just, maybe lay off the vodka before engaging in any tank-related diplomacy. And finally, because even war needs a punchline. And they say history is boring. Honestly, with all the intrigue, tragedy, and occasional absurdity, it's a wonder they even bother with fiction anymore. But then, as they also say, truth is often stranger than fiction and far, far more explosive.